Hello and welcome to Property Money Trees, Maximising Property Values, the once a month show where I break down the steps of how to recognise, enhance, and then extract the values in property in order to create wealth. Would you like to find out how you can benefit from the steps of maximising property values? This is even if you don't own a property yet or have a deposit. If that's a yes, then you're in the right place to find out. My name is Patricia Faber, and although many know me for my work as a solicitor, on this show you will be getting the benefit of my 30 plus years worth of experience of maximising property values, experience which has given me a net worth in millions. So who might benefit from listening to this show? Literally anyone with an interest in creating property wealth. Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing something slightly different because a few people have reached out to me and asked me to talk about how to maximise property values on the income side. So what I've done over the last few episodes is I've been talking about capital appreciation, or how to kind of just increase the value in a piece of property. So this time around, I'm going to be talking about income and what you can do to maximize the income that you can get from a property. So I'm going to talk about an HMO that I did in 2019. It's the last HMO that I've done. It completed in 2019. Yep, end of 2019, just before Christmas. And it is still going. So what was this? So it was a 3-bedroom semi-detached house. Now, there's a particular reason why I like semi-detached houses, and I wouldn't personally do an HMO with a mid-terrace. Now, the reason why I like a side access is so that everyone in the house can go into the garden, because I tend to not have communal lounges for my tenants, because when you have a communal lounge or one of those big kitchen lounge things, they tend to be at the back of the house, and then access to the garden can be gained through the doors there. But I tend not to have those. I just have a kitchen for the preparation of food, and then everybody just has their own room with their ensuite. Right, where do I start? Right, 3-bedroom house, 2 reception. So this house is in Norbury in Croydon, and the space standards for Croydon are that you need to have at least 10 square meters for your rooms, but that goes up to 12.5 square meters if you want to have an ensuite, bathroom or shower room included within that room. And I don't do HMOs that don't have en suites, so I needed to have 12.5 square meters for minimum for each of the rooms. Where the kitchen was, together with a pantry, came to just 12.5 square meters, and the 3rd bedroom upstairs was 9 square meters. So that 3rd bedroom was never ever going to be a lettable room in an HMO in Croydon. So what I did was I moved the kitchen upstairs into that 3rd bedroom, and I turned the kitchen into a bedroom with its own ensuite. So when this house was being bought, as I've said in previous podcasts, a valuer will be asked by the lender to go in and value it for its capital value to make sure that they're not lending you more than what the house is worth, and also the potential rental value to make sure that the rents will actually cover whatever mortgage it is that you are going to be taking out. So when the valuer went in to value this particular house, the valuer valued the capital absolutely fine, but the rental, she said, would only bring in £1,500 a month. Now, I appealed that. I should have known better, but it didn't cost me anything. And I was hoping that she'd see common sense. In London, where do you get a 5-room house and say that it's not going to bring in more than £1,500 a month? It was just stupid, just completely stupid. Who knows of any room in London that rents for £300 a month? Even if I'd done nothing to the house after buying it, it would have still rented for at least, 450, 500. And even if she'd said, okay, you might, have a lounge, I'd still have 4 good rooms. What is 4 times 4.5? What is 4 times 5? That's a good 2,000. Some people might even say, why not? 550. That would be the minimum for that area. Anyway, she wouldn't kind of barge on her 1,500 per month. Now, the funny thing about it is, I then spoke to my broker, and my broker said, well, let's use somebody else, because then, you'll get the 2,000 a month that you need for the mortgage products that you actually want to go for. So we instructed somebody else. But funny, the same valuer rocked up. And this time she said, oh no, it will fetch £2,000 any day. But I can't value it at anything, because this particular lender that you've chosen requires for there to be a license for me to be able to give it any value, because lenders give different instructions to their valuers. So the first lender said, assume the house has a license and value it as an HMO, because I'd applied for an HMO mortgage. The second lender said to the valuer, if it doesn't have an HMO license, you have to give a nil value, because it can't be let as an HMO without the license. Now, the difference between the two lenders was that the first lender wanted the business, realised that obviously I had experience in this, would be able to do the works and get it up to speed. They didn't have a problem with it. The second lender is one of these bridge to let lenders. So they'll bridge to you first, and then once you've done the works, they'll then put you onto one of their letting products. So they weren't going to let me have their cheaper product when I'd be carrying out the works. And this mistake actually made me fall out with the broker, because I thought, do you know what, as a broker, you should never have advised me to go with a lender where the outcome was inevitable. It was, if they knew what they were doing, they would have known that there's no way I could have got the particular products that we'd applied for with this second lender. Anyway, so we went back to the first lender, and I had to take out a different product, which I didn't really want to take out. It was slightly more expensive, but hey ho, things have to be done. And the reason why I had to take up that product was because I knew that I was going to need about £100,000 to do the house up to the standard that I needed it to be, in order to get the rents that I needed to get from the house. So so I wasn't going to kind of put all of my money into paying a deposit for the house. So anyway, bought the house, stripped it back to bricks, ripped out all the electrics, completely rewired, ripped out all the plumbing. So why do I rip out plumbing? Now, if you've lived in a house for long enough, you might begin to notice that some of your radiators don't warm up as they ought to. If you call a plumber to come and help you sort this out, the plumber will say you need a power flush. So what this means is that there are lots of metal bits that float around in central heating systems, and these then cause what is called, I think, slurry or sludge, something or other, in the pipes. Now, where the pipes have a kink, that sludge just kind of sits there, And once it's been there for long enough, it will start to get hard. And once it completely solidifies, good luck with getting water to kind of like pass through it. And even if the water does kind of like find a way, past it, then it won't be as much as it needs to be to kind of like heat up the radiator, and that then will cause the radiator to not heat up properly. And power flushes, I've had a couple done, during my time. My experience is that they don't work. They may well work for somebody else, no idea, but for me they don't work, and they're quite expensive. So anyway, that is why I rip out all the plumbing in houses that I buy, because I don't know what kind of sludge might be kind of like sitting in the pipe work. And the last thing you want when you are creating an HMO is for your tenants to then be complaining about, their rooms being cold because the radiators are not heating up properly. So did all of that, put the new kitchen in. So 5 rooms, I was going to have 5 rooms, but one of them was so big, it was going to be a double room for 2 people. So that means that I was applying for a license to have 6 people live in the house. Now in Croydon, you need one of everything for 5 people in an HMO. So you need one kitchen for 5 people in an HMO. When I say one kitchen, I actually mean kitchen facilities. So kitchen facilities, they are, according to Croydon, a 4-burner cooker, an oven, a sink, and 4 double sockets. So because I was going to have 6 people in there, I needed 2 kitchen facilities. So you can either, when you're in Croydon, have 2 kitchens if you need 2 kitchen facilities, or you can have both sets of facilities in the one room, as long as you meet the minimum kind of like size for kitchens containing 2 sets of facilities. So anyway, kind of like did all of that. And also what I do when I'm doing HMOs is I get the council to come on an advisory visit. So the advisory visits mainly are not because I don't know what they want or what they require of me, but to give them the chance to actually see what I'm doing and to maybe kind of like, give me some advice over and above what's in their, documentation that you can find online for any council in the country. The lady came round, I showed her my plans, told her that 2 of the rooms were going to be a bit tight, and she said, look, it doesn't matter, Patricia, yes, they're going to be slightly tight, but just do them nicely like you always do, and I'm sure they'll be fine. Because the 2 of the rooms were literally, one was 12.55, I think, and the other one was 12.7 square meters. So they were literally kind of like borderline. And the last thing I wanted was to have done all the works and then for her to say, oh no, these rooms are too small. So I wanted her in before the works had started, also so that she could actually measure the rooms herself and be satisfied that they would actually meet their standards. So that was that at the beginning of the works. Then also what I try and future-proof whatever I'm doing. So I did some acoustic insulation between the floors. So this house was a 2-story house. So between the ceiling and the ceiling of the rooms on the ground floor and the floors of the rooms on the first floor, I had acoustic insulation put into those spaces in between the joists. And then I double lined the ceilings below. So in HMOs, you need to contain each room for fire purposes. So you'll either use like 15 mil pink board, which is like fire resistant board, or you can double up with like grey board, and 2 layers of grey is equivalent to 30 minutes of fire protection. But what I did was I had like 1 layer of pink, which gave me what the council wanted. And I also wanted, what the council wanted. And I also added 1 layer of blue, which is acoustic. And not only that, I made sure that the boards were not kind of like screwed into the joists directly. We used acoustic clips throughout, and that really helps with, separating like the sounds, from the different floors, in the different rooms. And then on the outside, I did external insulation. So I think they were 90 mil insulation boards. Well, they're not actually boards. I can't remember what they're called now. But they're quite lightweight, and they get kind of like screwed into the outer skin of properties. And I think that was money very well spent. They're not that cheap, and depending on the size of the house that you might be looking to insulate externally, that could range from say about £4,000 to probably about £12,000. And what you have to do, whether you are insulating externally or internally, you have to insulate every single wall that is not a party wall. So with this semi, I had like 3 lots of walls to insulate, because the front, the side and the back. So had that been a mid-terrace, it would have just been 2 sets of walls, the front and the back. And had it been an end of terrace, again, it would have been 3 sets of walls, the front, the side and the back. Now, I didn't do internal insulation, which works out usually, cheaper than external insulation, because of the 2 rooms where I was literally kind of like borderline the sizes that Croydon wanted. So if I'd put internal thermal insulation in those rooms, they definitely would have been a lot smaller than 12.5 square meters, which they are, and which was being required by Croydon. So those rooms actually made me go outside and put the insulation outside. So when you're doing external insulation, you normally go for 90 millimeters. That is what the building regs actually require. But if you're doing it internally, I think it's 60 insulation plus a 12.5 mil board stuck onto the insulation. So that gives you like 72 mil, roughly. But if you're kind of like doing this, if you just allow to lose 100 mil off of every wall, that will give you a rough idea as to whether or not you want to do internal thermal insulation or external insulation. Right, so I did all of that, normal stuff that I do for the house, kind of like keep it nice, keep it simple, sophisticated though, minimalist, which is my style. Each bathroom in the house had like, different tiles. Each one had a feature wall tile, and a sort of like, rest of the bathroom tile. And I keep saying bathroom, but 4 of those 5 en suites were walk-in wet rooms, and 1 of them was a shower room, because there just wasn't enough space to get a nice looking wet room into that particular shower room. So did all of that. And also what I do with my HMOs is I plan them out from day one, so that there's a seating area and there's also a sleeping area, and there's also always a built-in wardrobe. So all of these things were done, obviously plus a few extras, and then the place was furnished. I tend to use made.com for my sofas. My beds, now funnily, I don't get them from Italy because I just want to be able to say I get my beds from Italy. I get them from Italy because this particular supplier has the beds that work the most for the spaces I tend to use. And also the beds are so sturdy because they are welded together in Italy, and all I've ever had to do is like screw the legs on, and that has just been so easy to do. And then the beds also have a space underneath them, so people can kind of like, put like suitcases or little boxes really on wheels under their beds, just to kind of like keep their rooms clutter free. So anyway, yeah, did all of that, dressed the rooms, and guess what? When we started to we let room 1 for 925 a month, room 2 for 875 a month. So room 2 was one of the smaller rooms, the 12.5 ones. Room 3, 875, that was a second smaller room. And room 4, that was a double room, for £1,000. But 2 people didn't move in. The person who took it is single and she's still there. And then room 5 for 925 a month. So altogether, all 5 rooms came to £4,620 a month. Amazing. That could have been, again, normal prices in the area are probably about £650 for ensuite rooms looking nice ish. Possibly £700. Studio flats go for £750 in that area. So, for me to have been able to get those rents, just I think is a testament to kind of like, the importance of good design, of planning things out in advance and following it and using quality materials, which obviously people can see in the wet rooms or the shower room or even inside the rooms themselves. And yes, so that really is that. Actually, let me go through some figures on the expenses side. So the council tax is £128 a month. The electricity and gas, that's £44 a month. So clearly the insulation is working wonders. What else is there? Broadband is £38 a month. I have a cleaner that goes in every week, and she goes in every week really to kind of like sort out the recycling, because unfortunately most of the tenants don't actually like recycling. They'll just put everything in one bag and throw it into the nearest bin, which just really doesn't work. I believe in recycling, and apart from that, when the bin men come, if there's mixed waste in a bin, they literally just shout up the road, "Contaminated!" and they won't take it. So that then is a big hassle. So anyway, yeah, I have a cleaner every week, and she charges £10 an hour and does an hour and a half. So the cleaner's fees is like £60 a month. And then I also have a gardener, and he charges £25 an hour and does 2 hours every other week during, from spring to autumn. And then I think he comes over once during the winter months just to kind of like tidy things up. The other thing I did was I used what they call like Spanish pebbles in front of the house. They're like big stones, and they've been painted white, and it really just looks amazing. Those stones, I love them. They're expensive, but do you know what? I think they're worth it, because you walk past the house and you just won't forget. It's a house that is remarkable. You see it and you will just remember it. And also, once the insulation was done outside, it was rendered white, because you can get your rendering in different colors, but I chose white. So that rendering literally just goes with, these Spanish pebbles. And oh yes, another thing that I did, I as I did say, I knew I was going to be spending about, 100,000 odd pounds. Is like, all the windows again. Well, not all of them. Most of them were changed because they were kind of like they were drafty, they were old, and I just thought, rather than be faffing about with, getting someone in to come and like repair windows that were probably not even made properly when they were made 30 years ago, possibly, to just replace them with a more modern and thermally better window. So I did that. So yes, that is an example of maximizing property values, with a valuer saying, it would only get £1,500 a month, to the house actually getting £4,620 a month. So what I'd like to do is just like wrap up regarding this HMO. So just to let you know, the other things that need to be done are, you need a fire detection and alarm system. So I had like an upgraded system. I went over and above what the council actually required for a 2-storey house. Again, this was part of me trying to future-proof the house, because I thought, today they just want this kind of like, okay system. Tomorrow they may well want something a little bit more sophisticated. So I went for the sophisticated one from the get-go. Then I also put in emergency lighting, which wasn't required either because it was just a 2-storey house. And then all the doors to the rooms had to be fire check doors, meaning that they would keep a fire back for 30 minutes. And when you put a fire door in, your lining should also be fire rated. And then we had to put intermittent strips into the lining. So intermittent strips stop smoke from moving from one area to another. So the other thing, yes, that I did was, I always have combination boilers in my HMOs, and I work on the basis that 2 people per boiler would work brilliantly. Because you see, what happens with combi boilers is that if you have more than 2 people using it at the same time, it won't deliver hot water. And that's one thing that people tend to complain about quite a bit in HMOs, that they're trying to have a shower and there's no hot water. So in this particular house, you can go up to 3. So I've just got the 2 boilers, and they're both in the kitchen. So one boiler serves 3 rooms and the other boiler serves 2 rooms and the kitchen. So one of the reasons why I like to use the combination boilers as opposed to any other system is that if you use an ordinary boiler, you will then need to have a water cylinder for your hot water. And what research has shown is that you could be heating up that water and nobody is actually using it. So it's not a very efficient way of supplying hot water. So I don't use those. One, for the space of situating that hot water cylinder, because you tend to need a mega flow for an HMO that has more than like 2 or 3 rooms. The other thing as well is that once I've finished doing the works to the HMO, I have a new EPC certificate commissioned, and with the combination boilers, I get a much better rating than if I have a hot water cylinder. For the very reason that I've just mentioned. If with the hot water cylinder, chances are you're heating up water that is not being used. With a combination boiler, any water that's being heated up is actually being called for to be used immediately. So that is looked at more favourably when EPC ratings are done. And then once I'd done all the works, I applied to the council for the licence, which I got. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope that at the very least you have found the talk thought-provoking. If you enjoyed the show, please do subscribe. In any event, please do rate and review the episode because it would be great to read your feedback. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you next month.